Oh God, this one. Sleep no more. Oh. I'd really forgotten how bad this thing is. No, that's a lie. I'd remembered how bad it was, but rewatching it and going over it with a fine-tooth comb, I'm just finding more things beyond the stuff that I remembered being bad about it. Now, you can make the argument that it's not as aggressively bad as something like, say, Kill the Moon, but, oh my God, almost nothing is working here. And even the few things that do work are failing a bunch of the other times. Let's start with the gimmick. Because, I'm sorry, the first person jumping between views thing is a gimmick. It is the absolute heart of a gimmick. It adds as much to the story as the real-time thing did to 42, which is to say, nothing. You could remove that element from the story and it would change nothing about the way the story is told. If you're going to do something that is that fundamental to the episode in terms of how you're presenting it, like a real-time thing, like this first person, but it doesn't actually alter the way you tell the story, and you're not doing anything to take advantage of what this actually does and how it is meant to differ from any other friggin' Base Under Siege style story that Doctor Who has ever done, then it's a gimmick. And a poorly used one at that. Here's the thing. There are lots that they could have done to take more advantage of it. I'm not sure what you could have done to actually make it more central to the story without making it disorienting. But there is at least one thing that they could have done to lean into the gimmick and make one of the eventual payoffs actually work worth a darn. So it is supposedly made up of various pieces of footage captured. Some from what we are initially led to believe are the head cams of the rescue team coming in, and then some from the security cameras of the station or whatever it is that they are actually on. But here's the thing. It jumps perspective so often and about with the regular rhythm that you would expect a standardly cut episode to be, and how frequently it goes to, going out of a first person into a third person. It just feels like a slightly awkwardly edited standard episode. If it had stuck strictly to the first-person views of the various characters and eliminated the up-top security angles every now and then, if it had completely cut those, then if nothing else, the later reveal that the Doctor gave of, wait, what's missing? These things are in our heads, and these people we haven't seen anything from their perspective. And if you had stuck to perspective, you would have realized, oh, hey, here, it doesn't register because you were jumping outside of people's perspectives anyway. So who the heck was even going to think to keep track or even have it register enough to even roll your mind back and go, oh yeah, no, it's completely pointless. This entire frigging gimmick. Then there's the monsters. So, oh boy, oh God, there's so much about this. The core concept. I try not to crap over core ideas because by and large I'm someone who ascribes to the notion of anything can be done well and even a bad idea can be properly executed, and I will say that this is poorly executed, but I'll also argue that this is a bad idea, this core concept for these things, that it's sleep dust. It's the stuff in the corner of your eyes that takes over and eats you. I'm going to make two complaints, and they might even sound contradictory, but stick with me here. I have a higher awareness of this now that I am a parent, which I wasn't when this originally aired. So, issue one, it is too goofy on its face to take seriously. Especially when you see these things. There are two shots where these things actually look effective in terms of being monsters. One, the very first time we see them, where it's actually taking advantage of the first-person perspective, and you get that found footage moment of they're just kind of off in the background, and you just see a shadow move, and everybody bolts. It's almost kind of like Amnesia, the Dark Descent thing. The minute you see a bit of it, you're like, ah! And you go. And so you don't actually get a good look at it. But then almost immediately after that, and I do mean almost immediately, it sticks its arm through a door, and we see this lumpy foam-looking thing that isn't scary. It just isn't. It's too bulky. It just looks like a foam hand, with like these protuberous things on it, but there's nothing intimidating about it. There's no claw. It's moving so, slowly and laboriously because it's obviously a very, restrictive sort of thing that they've got on the performer's arm. So it's just kind of, and then it just crumbles to dust, neither of which is intimidating whatsoever. And yet, despite the fact that it is far too silly a concept and an execution in terms of seeing these things, and also because I forgot to mention, there was one other shot that worked, and it's when they're coming through the fire. And that lighting is about the only time that their big mouths actually work, because otherwise, because it's fixed and it doesn't move in any way, after the first time you see it, you're kind of like, oh, it's just going to be like that, isn't it? So that doesn't really work either. Actually, aren't the big jaw things, isn't that also kind of like what Amnesia, the Dark Descent had its monsters like? This is literally occurring to me as I say it. Oh, man. Was the writer a fan of that game? I'm starting to wonder. Anyway, okay, so now, despite all that, and despite the fact that the monsters are ineffective and very poorly executed, and the concept is laughable on its face, it's also too scary. And I almost never accuse Doctor Who of being too scary, but I say this from the perspective of someone who has a kid who does not watch Doctor Who, to be fair, but who knows, and I think being a parent kind of puts you back in the headspace as well. Having now seen the world a bit through my daughter's eyes, I can roll my mind back and sort of latch onto what it was like to be, that age. And as silly as this gunk in the corner of your eye concept is, it's also the kind of thing that would latch on into a kid's head. And I remember somebody making a comment, might even have been on my original review video, being, in taking the role of a kid and going, "Mommy, is the eye gunk going to kill me when I go to sleep?" And I think they were saying that mockingly, but the thing is, I could actually see a younger Doctor Who fan having that idea lodged in their head. Because it doesn't get properly explained, it doesn't get properly defeated, and it's something that, a more impressionable audience member is going to wake up and find in their eye in the morning and have a freak out. And I know, again, I don't go on about this. I think kids are really resilient. But this is the kind of brainworm concept that's going to get stuck in there and be hard to dislodge, and it's not in service of anything. So it simultaneously manages to fail at being scary while being presented in such a way that I can't help but feel like this is going to traumatize some kids. And I don't feel that way about, say, The Silence or even The Weeping Angels, because at the very least, they get beaten at the end. And that's another thing. This whole thing at the end where, the guy recording it, first of all, huge surprise, the scientist who created the thing that started the problem, who died in a way that was almost impossible to tell what happened to him, turns up again and is the one behind it. Oh, what a shock that was. Then he has the thing at the end, and he rubs his eye, and it starts to fall apart. And he's saying that the signal, the very video that you're watching, is implanting this thing in you, so now this will happen to you. Doctor Who doesn't end like this. It just doesn't. That's kind of violating the basic principle of family entertainment. One of the things Walt Disney used to say is it is totally okay to scare kids as long as everything is okay in the end. And I kind of think that is how Doctor Who should approach its scary elements. Whether it's the Daleks, the Weeping Angels, the Silence, the Flood, whatever it is, it has to be beaten at the end of the episode so that as scary as it can get, younger audiences, because this is still billed as a family show, still get to go, oh, Well, that was scary, but at least we won. Here, they didn't. It also never comes back to it, which makes the whole cliffhanger-y thing all the more stupid and pointless because it's setting up like it's good. Well, no, I was going to say it's setting up like they're going to follow up on it, but it's obvious they're never going to follow up. They're doing it because it's the generic way to end a horror movie, and they think they're scary, and they're not. The performances from the supporting cast are not exceptional either, but it's because the characters are so thinly sketched. They're all completely generic. Like, there's actually the voiceover from the guy towards the front end that says, "Don't get too attached to them." And I remember, I actually said at the TV, yeah, no, there was no chance of that happening, buddy. Don't even worry about it. About the best thing that I can say about this thing is that there are a handful of small moments or lines or exchanges that I do like, but they are small potatoes in this thing. So, like, the doctor saying to Clara, "Hold my hand," and she says, "I'm okay," and he goes, "I'm not," and she holds his hand. I actually really love that moment. I mean, as someone who, finds touch and contact very reassuring if I'm stressed or afraid, that moment is wonderful. I wish it was in a better episode. I also, and this is just me, I do really like that when the captain of this team says to the doctor, "Consider yourself," and he goes, "part of the furniture," because the play I was in 7th grade that really gave me the acting bug was Oliver, and that's what the song "Consider Yourself" is from. So that was a joke that felt like that was just for me, and that was kind of nice. Oh, you know what? Here was a weird thing that I noticed and did not remember at all. There's this repeated thing that they keep doing of "May the gods bless you." They say it a lot, like any exclamation they say it, or anytime they're trying to get a hold of somebody over the radio or whatever, they're like, "May the gods bless you, are you there?" I'm like, wait, what? And not that I'm saying you can't have that kind of thing, but what is that in aid of? It's actually contradictory with most of the rest of the stuff going on, because everything else that's going on in terms of what we find out about this setting is very corporate. It's this idea of sleep is time wasted, time is money, stop sleeping. Like, that is more in line with something like, frankly, Oxygen next series. But here we have out of nowhere this very prolific religious and spiritual notion, "May the gods bless you," and it doesn't fit the themes, and it can't even count as world building because it doesn't get explained here, and this isn't a world that we're ever going to come back to, this particular time and area setting. So what the hell was the point of that? What was that meant to illustrate? Oh, and another point of failure, there's this build-up to this Morpheus machine, and it looks like a coffin, and then the doctor guy, not the doctor, but the scientist guy, the villain, he says, like, "There's someone in here who hasn't slept in 5 years." And that feels like a build-up to something even more monstrous than what we already saw. And what emerges from this thing is just another friggin' dust monster. So what was the point of the build-up? What was the purpose of the build-up if it's just going to be the same dang thing again? Maybe it was slightly larger. I couldn't tell because of the way the thing was shot. Actually, you know what? There was one other thing I liked. The one other moment, and unfortunately it was a moment that I liked, was when the guy tried to get through the door and the door made him sing. And the door sounds like Gladys from Portal.
"In order to enter rooms, everyone must do the song. It's very amusing.
But you know who I am. Just call me by my name."
Nevertheless,
I actually really like that, and in hindsight, I wish that this had been the station's computer has gone nuts. I wish it had been that kind of story, because that moment of him trying to negotiate getting this door open and being forced to sing by this stubborn AI, that was a great, tense, darkly funny moment, and that was the kind of thing like I would have loved to have seen spread across this, but no, it's just really, 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 really stupid monsters and a mad scientist, because we never see those. When was the last time Doctor had an AI go mad? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Gus, maybe, from Mummy of the Orient Express, but he was a background feature. Not to mention we never found out what his deal was anyways. I think that's about all I've got. I really don't like this episode. I didn't like it when I first saw it. It just immediately made me go, "Oh dear God, what were they thinking?" And it is a handful of gimmicks slapped over a lousy, ineffective idea, given an actually absurdly dark ending that is in no way cathartic or reassuring, which I don't think is fitting for what Doctor Who should be, or at the very least what it is still being billed as. And it's just got this handful, smattering, tiny moments that do nothing to stave off the garbage that the rest of this episode is. I really hate this one. Sleep No More! You rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I have a Patreon. It helps keep this whole thing going. And I also have a merch store and social media links. And you can like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things help me out. Links in the description where applicable. But you also don't have to. End of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meeting. And until next time, this council is adjourned.